Hello, and welcome back to the Conscious Contact podcast. My name is Genay Peavey, and I'm here with my co-host Susan Sanders. And today, I think I suggested this, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I was doing a meditation on Insight Timer, which not a sponsor, but lovely app.
Mm.
Kind of like crowdsourced meditation tracks type of thing. It's like whoever wants to can record it and post it to Insight Timer and people can
Huh.
listen to it. Yeah. And I'll try to make sure I give you the link for this specific meditation. But it's a guy, and I guess it's towards the middle of the meditation, he starts kind of like a visualization thing, not manifestation, but a visualization. And he's talking about how to work backwards from your goals. And we've already talked about like asking yourself why 5 times and how important that is. This is the same through idea, but it is whatever your goal is, whether it's to be successful or whether it's to be healthy or whatever. It's saying, why am I so successful? So you're envisioning yourself already in that position and you're asking yourself, why am I? And then you continue to ask yourself, well, once you answer the question the first time, you continue to ask yourself, well, why am I waking up consistently at this time every day so that I can be productive? Okay, well, I am, yada, yada, yada. And I think that can be extremely helpful for knowing where to start. Like, what can I do in the next hour to help me get closer to that goal is a lot harder for me to figure out than what are the huge things I can change about my life in the next year that are going to get me closer to that goal. Because you can't get to a goal with big leaps most of the time.
Right.
Unless you're like an Olympic jumper or something,
Pun intended?
Yeah.
Got it.
So it's that thing of really pulling it back to what can I do right now that's going to get me that one step closer to where my huge, bigger, like big picture goal is. And I think it might even be more helpful for things that aren't like monetary, like a job or whatever. He uses that as one of the examples, but having the ability to ask yourself that when it comes to like, why am I so spiritually fit? Why am I calm in stressful situations? And that might take work with another person as well, because, sometimes you can't answer those questions. You might need to talk to someone who has what you want and you see them being calm in stressful situations. Like, how did you get here?
Right.
But being able to break that conversation open and kind of expand the macro goal into the micro movements of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I get it in terms of what you said right there at the end with the habit change and the goals.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about this topic, I was having trouble connecting like the feelings to the nuts and bolts of it, as I sometimes do. It can be hard to hold both at the same time. That both and concept is a challenge for me. But I think you talked about it at the beginning, like we start with, and I have not listened to this particular, it's not a meditation. Meditation? That's the right word?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But if we start with, so let me give you an example. That always is a good place for me to start. So whether it's an affirmation or I actually feel content and competent or whatever the word might be, it seems like that could be a place where I start. Okay, so I feel content. And I'm meditating on that. Why do I feel content? And it's because I have gotten the things done that I wanted to get done. Well, why did I get those things done? Because I became aware of them. Why was I aware of them? Is that the sort of thing we're talking about?
Kind of. That is sounds like a really awesome way to get in touch with like tangible elements of feelings rather than just like the big gray cloud of the word.
Yeah.
And really be able to show yourself the intentionality behind it or confirm that like that is the feeling that you're having or kind of not bolstering, but like giving yourself a little bit more like groundedness in again, the nuts and bolts part rather than the floaty feelings part.
Yeah.
It is that, yes, which I think is a great way to use it as well, to be able to spiral downward and identify your feelings or be able to ground yourself in them a little bit more. But
Mm-hmm.
this is more so like you are not content and you want to be content.
Okay, so why am I not content?
No, 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 no. So you're envisioning yourself already there.
Okay.
So you're saying, why am I content?
Why is future me content?
Yes. So I am that person. I am already there. Why am I content? Why would I be content? Like the job thing, like why am I, if you're envisioning like success in business,
Mm-hmm.
why am I so successful? Kind of like if you want to be an Olympic weightlifter or a CrossFit superstar, you got to do what they do to get to that level.
Right.
So the acting as if portion comes into that a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the aspirational part of it, because sometimes I'll just feel super crabby about all the things everybody else isn't getting done.
Mm.
But if I look at it, it's me not feeling content with my output, if you will, whether it's showing up for my day job or my sustainable Sue business or work I've committed to you to do for the podcast, whatever it might be. And so if future me was more content with where I am, I'm less likely to see what everybody else isn't doing because
Mm.
I'm also not doing it. Like it all comes
Yeah,
down to
yeah.
our own stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And this is definitely how I like to approach goal setting. Cause like if I look at it like, okay, well, how does somebody write a book? Well, they sit down and write. They don't,
Yeah.
create memes and GIFs and the social media. Like that
Yeah.
might be all part of promotion, but who cares what your
Yeah. But it
promotion
didn't used to
plan
be.
is?
Yeah.
If you don't have a book to send to an editor, then
Yes.
edit it and send to a
Yep.
publisher, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. Yep. Cart before the horse. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. So what does someone who wants to be a writer, be an Olympic weightlifter, whatever, what
Yes.
are the small steps that they do?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that this is a meditation because I prefer to do it with pen and paper because
Ooh.
I think, well, what are those steps? So I come out of that with super motivated and then I'm done. I'm like, okay, well, now what am I doing?
Yeah.
So when you listen to it, how did that play out? Okay, so that 10 minutes is over. Now what?
Yeah. It's very chill. And like the whole point of the meditation was definitely not to set goals. Like that was not the vibe. And it was a small part of the larger meditation. And then the meditation itself is only like 10 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So it's very, very tiny.
Yeah.
So it was really more of setting that intentionality within your body, not necessarily like, let's make a nuts and bolts plan of action for this. It is more so like giving yourself that ability to live in your imagination for a second in a grounded base. Because we had, set up a basic meditation up to that point. And then you're kind of letting yourself be in that place where your mind is a little bit quieter, hopefully, and then opening it up and saying, okay, well, what is out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to remind everyone this is not a self-help podcast.
No.
So this is not about goal setting and the nuts and bolts of that, although that's kind of what we have alluded to so far. It's more of the mindset of how you get there.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yes. Because if you don't have the ability to see that and bring the emotional side in and the awareness of your tiny actions, like you're never going to get to that goal. Well, I'll speak for myself. I will never get to that goal unless I can, one, have enough intentionality to do the emotional work to know what my motivating factors are. So like, what is my core value that this is lining up with? And expanding it from there. If I start with a goal and I never work backwards, one, I'll never have the determination to reach the goal because it's not connected to anything at the core of my being. It'll just be another one of those things I pick up and put down
Right.
or start and then completely stop because I don't have any reasoning behind it. Like when it gets tough, which
Mhm.
anything worth doing, I think eventually is going to have some kind of resistance. I won't have the pro- propulsion to go forward because I have nothing behind that. I've not done any of the work to show myself why this is important to me. I've
Mm,
just said I
mhm.
think that I like this, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I think this is a way to get to, instead of what do I want to do,
hmm
I like the framework of like who do I want to
Yeah.
be? How do I want to be?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Um,
another one that he mentions is like why do I have such a good relationship with my sibling?
hmm.
Like that kind of stuff. So
Mhm.
he starts with a very tangible thing like why am I so successful? Why am I able to take like week-long vacations or something like that? And
Mhm.
then he goes into like why do I have such good relationships with so and so? And I
Mhm.
I think that that is the bigger part of it. I think that is where my mind went when kind of thinking about this topic is not necessarily this is a great way to set goals. It is more so like this is a wonderful way to if you want to grow and take another layer off that onion that is
Mhm.
your soul,
Yeah.
being able to look at again those micro interactions with
Mhm.
people that
Mhm.
add up to your actual relationship.
Right.
Ooh, that can be very sobering. Um, and because for example, I was a shithead yesterday. Like,
Mm.
not aggressively so, like, definitely not old Genay, but my expectations were misplaced and I was overwhelmed and I was forced into a situation where my undecisive ass had to make lots of decisions in rapid
Mm.
succession.
Mhm.
Um, and that is all on me. However, I know that my outward portrayal of that, although I felt like I was doing a really good job holding it in, I am positive I was not.
Mm.
And I was probably looking very annoyed and frustrated, and I probably came off like an asshole.
Mm.
Again, I didn't say anything outwardly, so a ton of progress, giving myself the
Yeah.
credit for that. However,
We both need deliverance from our face,
yes,
nonverbal cues. Yeah.
it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad, and I thought I was doing a great job, and I
And
know
if
that I was
that's not
not.
a promotion for the YouTube channel, I don't know
Right?
what is.
You're missing half of this if you can't see the facial expressions, truly. Maybe three-fourths, if I'm honest. But yeah, I walked away from that feeling nasty. And again, it's not like I have any amends to make. I didn't tell anyone to go fuck themselves. I wasn't like
Mhm.
snappy or rude with anyone overtly.
Mhm.
But I was like, man, I did not show up as my best self
Yeah.
in this situation.
Which I would think would be an amends to yourself.
Oh yeah.
So you
I
say you don't have amends to anyone, but
yeah.
you can take care of
I got
yourself.
some work to do for me.
Mhm.
Changing, not lowering of expectations, changing of expectations,
Mhm.
replacing them on me instead of on other
Right.
people.
Realigning.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly. And having that awareness is great, but it's still, it just, lest, lest you think we're speaking from any like high horse or plane of existence where we've got this all figured out. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I needed that reminder though, that like Janae is not does not have this
Mm.
human interaction thing together. And I am an anxious, semi-neurotic person, and I just do a really good job of coping with that. I've learned really really healthy, awesome ways of coping with that.
Mm.
But it's still there and sometimes it comes out and I need to set myself up for success a little bit better because
Mhm.
I've been a little complacent with that part of my humanness
Mhm.
because it doesn't peek its head out very often because I don't put myself in those situations
Right.
or I have the time beforehand to set expectations all around and speak to myself. And I probably could have, meditated a little bit longer that morning. I could have gone on a walk. Like there are
Mhm.
things that I know are good for me that help me when I get to those situations, and I should have done that. And I
Mhm.
had the time to do it, and I decided not to because there were other more important things to
Right.
do.
Yep.
So it is a balance thing, and I think consistently asking yourself, like, not in a I'm so terrible, I'm never going to be good enough way. I want to like set that as a very separate divide. That's not what I'm talking about. But asking yourself, in what ways can I stretch and grow and move? Like, in what ways, giving yourself credit, kind of like a 10-step thing. Like, where have I done amazing and I can see
Mm.
huge links of growth?
Mhm.
And where are some areas that I still go, ooh, if somebody pokes at it a little too hard?
Right.
And, like,
Right.
focus my energy on that, like, set myself up for success in those areas or make a
Mhm.
plan of action or ask myself, "Okay, future Genay, why am I able to handle those situations with grace and ease?"
Right.
And, like, work backwards and make those concrete goals. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the fake friends that I referenced on the fake friends episode,
Yeah.
she is a big proponent of affirmations, and one of them that she shared this week was let me think if I can get it right. Future me is already here.
Mm.
So as we aspire to be less shitheads
Yeah.
or CrossFit phenom or a writer or whatever, that person is already in us,
Mhm.
but we just pile so much stuff on top of her
Yeah.
that she can't come out and be the true person that our higher power wants us to be.
Yeah.
Which I love that idea that it's not like I have to overhaul myself. I just have to like clear the clutter away from the closet to
Yes.
let her out.
Yeah. Whether that's old ideas
Mhm.
or emotions that are holding you back or resentments or whatever.
Yeah.
I was doom scrolling the documentary section of Amazon Prime last night, and it was like a lot of like people who climb mountains or make drastic changes in their lives or bike cross country with their friends because of
Yep.
the grapes of wrath or whatever, which I need to watch that one because I was very confused. But I don't want to have a high pain tolerance anymore. I
Mm.
want to have a low pain tolerance. So what I mean by that is there's this one guy, he's like 33, fell in the overweight range. He's a comedian and his mom was in the hospital after having like a coronary bypass or something.
Mhm.
And it was really a moment where he was like, I have to take my health into my own hands or I will be
Mm.
here. And
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go that route. I don't want to be the person that has a heart attack and then decides to get healthy. I don't want to be the person who cusses a stranger out and then
Mhm.
realizes I need to work on my anger. I don't want to be the person who's depressed and doesn't have a purpose in life anymore before I choose to make a change in my spiritual life.
Mhm.
I've been there and it's not fun.
Right.
I don't want to do it anymore. And I feel like asking yourself these kind of questions is kind of like a maintenance. It's kind of like, taking the Genay car in for an oil change or
Mm.
like an inspection. Like,
Yeah.
all the blinkers good, but the headlight could probably use some work.
Right. Yeah,
Like
we are not passing the safety inspection of our emotional well-being. Yeah, and I think there are two ways to do it. You could say, "Why am I being such a shithead?"
Mm.
Or, "Why am I showing up as" I'm trying to think of the converse of a shithead. "Why am I showing up as a spiritually grounded person?" So
Yes.
when
Yeah.
you ask yourself that, you're trying to get to the same place.
Mhm.
But I think putting the positive word in instead of shithead
Yes.
frames it differently so that you're kind of doing the upward spiral, not these are
Yes.
all the things I did wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what he was getting at with the meditation. That's why you start with the like your aspirational self. And
Yes.
then you kind of work backwards instead of saying, why am I not successful right now?
Mhm.
Saying, I'm already there.
Right.
Why am I? How did I get here? And
Yes.
because, I mean, that does change things. Instead of beating yourself up, if you look at it from that opposite, angle, it's the same, like you said, it's the same core. You're trying to figure out the same motivators or lack thereof, or
Yeah.
holes in your routine or practice or whatever.
Mhm.
But if you give yourself the kindness of
Yeah.
just starting in a better place, it might be
Mhm.
easier to get to what's underneath there, you know?
Yes. And I'm about to sneeze, so
Go for
stand by, everybody.
it.
Um, and I can't remember if I've talked about this or not, but there's an analogy in the habit change field, if you will, about the flywheel. So the
Mm.
flywheel, think of like a spin bike. It's the back wheel that takes a lot of effort to get going.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's in other things than a spin bike, but I just don't know mechanics.
Yeah, yeah.
It takes a lot of effort to get going
Mhm.
when you first get going.
Yeah.
And you know, anybody that's been on a spin bike, your first pedal through. But then once it gets going, it will just take your legs with it,
Yeah.
or it'll just spin the pedals around on its own
Yes.
because it has the momentum and the energy. So the idea of smaller bite-sized pieces to, you know, be a CrossFit champion or to just be a better person,
Yeah.
what are those small things that can keep the flywheel going? Because we don't want to have to do that big, heavy, strong
Ooh.
turn
Yeah.
every single time.
Yes.
So by
Yeah.
doing those small things each day, just to kind of flick that flywheel and keep it going,
Yeah.
that is what helps us keep a bunch of plates spinning at once, whether
Mhm.
it's being kind to myself and then kind to my husband, kind to my kids, kind to my
It's a
coworkers.
big order.
Those are all different plates to spin.
Yeah.
Um, but it's possible if
Yeah.
we do a little bit of maintenance on them each
Yeah.
day, each hour, you know, depending on what the issue is.
Yeah. And you have to remember that, oh shit, I have this other plate I need to go spin. You know, because I think
Right.
sometimes it is just that whole awareness that comes
Mhm.
into play, because I can do a really good job of being kind to myself and take care of myself and doing all that and self-care and self-comfort and all that.
Yeah.
But then I forget about, I need to check in on my mom or so, like I completely
Yeah.
forget about that plate and I drop it. And I mean, that's human nature. You're going to drop a plate eventually. It's fine.
Yeah.
But having that ability to zoom in and out, I think is what those whys really made me think about, is like, okay,
Mhm.
macro versus micro,
Mhm.
and seeing, like, being able to, like, just on a computer, like being able to zoom in, zoom out, and be able to see, okay, what am I doing again? Like, what am I doing great on? Which is awesome. Then I can put that towards the back of my mind and then move another plate up to the
Right.
forefront that I'm spinning.
Yeah.
But it does take a lot of self-awareness, and big proponent for meditation, because I would be a wreck otherwise.
Mm. Yeah.
And when I say meditation, I don't necessarily mean like sitting with your legs crossed and oming for an hour and a half.
Mhm.
Sometimes I do 5 minutes.
Mhm.
I mean, and sometimes that's all I have the bandwidth for, and then I just can't. And
Right.
then I look at why I can't and make those tiny goals for myself to do 6 minutes next time or whatever.
Mhm.
But it can be, I've got a friend that does 2 minute meditations,
Mhm.
and that's all that she can do right now. And she's growing that.
Yeah.
But just start it literally, it's just having that moment of,
Mhm.
and that's it. That could be it.
Right, right. If 2 minutes feels unapproachable right now, maybe
Yeah.
it's something less.
Yes.
Yeah, and being where your feet are. And I think this
Yes.
is something that there's so much praise out there for multitasking and being good at multitasking. And all that means is that you're splitting your brain power amongst different tasks. So if
Yeah.
you're doing you only have 100% of your brain power. So
Yes.
if you split it into two tasks, it's 50-50. 3, it's 33, 33, 33, you know,
Yeah.
and it breaks it down more and more. But if you think, okay, right now I am, and you just focus on what you're doing. Right now I
Yeah.
am standing in the grocery store line. I am walking the dog. We don't always have to multitask in
Agreed.
order to find our value.
Yes.
And this happens at my day job consistently because of the inputs that are coming. There's email, there's phone calls,
Ah.
there's Teams chats, there's a variety of information. Well, right now I need to be typing these minutes. I need to finish this task
Yeah.
before I go look at that other thing, because this is what a calm mind does. A calm mind.
Yes.
Why do I have a calm mind? Because I'm doing one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
why am I doing one thing at a time? Because I want to show up fully for what I'm doing. And it doesn't work when I'm trying to read that message. Inevitably, I will take words from that chat that just came in and type
Yeah.
them into the notes, and then I create more work for myself because I have to send the corrected notes out.
Yeah.
And not to mention the whole spiral of dummy, you know not what to do. All that self-talk that goes
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
And I heard you say something about taking the time where it's quiet, because it's a singleness of purpose. It's that
Mhm.
single focus to improve and get to where I want to go,
Yeah.
rather than hearing all of the negative self-talk that we just barrage ourselves with. It's an
Yeah.
extraordinary amount of negative self-words,
Yes.
negative amount of words we target to ourselves each
Yeah.
day. And there's a better way. There's
Yeah.
an easier, softer way that we could get to.
Yeah.
And
And
we don't have the answers, but we
No.
want
we
to
work
find them.
towards that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remind me to link this book because I have no idea what the name is, but I will figure it out. It is a lovely book about distraction and how we are conditioned to be distracted and
Yeah.
how to move away from that, and details on how to silence and turn off notifications on your phone and your computer. And
If that's in the book, how to
yes.
do that? Oh, that's interesting.
And there's worksheets and like free stuff that you can get from this guy's
Yeah.
website. Bless
that's
him.
interesting.
Bless him for helping.
And keeping that all updated. That is no small
Because
task.
it's a big deal. I mean, we all know that social media and big tech is meant to keep us on there and keep us distracted from doing the things we need to be doing. And I would argue bad self-talk is a distraction that we're giving ourselves.
100%.
Instead of doing the work behind that, we can just talk shit to ourselves, and then we don't have to look at anything else, because then we can just wallow in our own self-pity. Anyway, that is another episode. But lovely book. And yeah, the more you can silence those distractions and focus on a singleness of purpose, I think that that's a wonderful place to end, because that's the whole point is
Yeah.
picking one thing and following that trail up to your, highest self. And breaking it down to say, what can I do once I'm done with this meditation? What is a small thing I can do? I can go take my vitamins. Like, if I want to be healthy, what can I do? I can go pick up my vitamin bottle on the kitchen counter, take my vitamins. And then that's one step closer.
I love it, because your vitamin could be so many things. I know
Oh,
you're talking
yeah.
about literal vitamins,
Yeah.
but
It could be anything.
the proverbial vitamin. Oh, that's good. That's good. You want to tell us what's bringing you joy this week?
Yeah. Okay. So this kind of stems off the growth that I had from yesterday's shithead.
I wonder if you could find a different word that for
Oh
yourself
my
than shithead.
Gosh.
Is that your homework? Let's
I
check back
guess.
in with Genay,
Yeah.
and then we
Oof.
can find out the word.
My God. It was I just need to do the work on my end, which is always the answer. But specifically, we were going to pick out fixtures for the house. So I like faucets, sinks, tubs, all of the appliances.
I've tried to pick out a faucet before. I can't
God,
do one
Susan.
decision. I can't imagine how you made all those.
I am the most indecisive person in the world. I just am. It is paralyzing.
Sure.
And my expectation was they were going to say, okay, here's the vibe for this room. Here's what we are thinking, and point to a fixture. What do you like versus not like? Okay, here's the next suggestion. No. They were like, what do you like for the whole house? Just period. I'm like, I don't know. So I immediately
This
went.
is what Pinterest is for.
Right? And I thought that we had anyway, I need to do the work on my end. So Genay was on Canva last night and Pinterest, and I am moving and grooving on individual mood boards for each room, and it's got specific things I'm looking for, and I will be making
Nice.
some damn decisions, because, I mean, we made some, bless Luke and everybody else involved,
Yeah.
but I was not clear on my own vision, and I had higher expectations for the people guiding this than
Mm.
they had available to them, or I didn't tell them my expectations either, so that's on me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna send them an email and not say that I'm sorry, because again, I don't owe specific amends, but I'm going to say, hey, not sorry. Again, I'm not gonna say I'm sorry.
Right.
I was super flustered at the meeting because I had not done the work on my end to have a clear vision of what I wanted. Therefore, I
Mm.
could not make any decisions and was marginally paralyzed. And I'm
Mhm.
pretty close with the younger designer of the team, so she's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have to be super formal with her. But, own my part without saying that I'm sorry
Right.
and do the work on my end. And then I'm going to attach all of my mood boards and say, here's the vibe, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So is your joy the mood boards, the realization you needed to do?
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
All of it.
And it took a shorter time rather than, 20 years that it took
Yes.
you the first time.
The empowerment is the joy.
Okay.
Because once I realize
hear
that
that.
I am the problem, I am also the solution. And then
Right.
I get the power back,
Yeah.
which is just a great feeling.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like, oh my God, it's everybody else's fault, and I'm swimming in a sea of nothingness, and no one helped me. And when
Right.
I
the
realized, oh, I
victimness.
did it. It was
Yeah.
my fault, and I can be the solution.
That's right.
It's amazing.
That's right.
It's the best feeling ever. Anyway,
Oh, that's good.
what about you?
That's good. Well, this episode will air on February 5th.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And the days leading up to this episode being out, we will have just sent our oldest to Italy to study abroad for the
Oh.
semester, which I feel joy at her getting this opportunity and then myself being able to hold two feelings at once. Like, I wish I would have been able to do that. And I'm so excited for her to do that.
Yeah.
And we are going to miss her. And we're definitely going to go see her. There's just so many feelings about that. And I feel
Yeah.
very, very fortunate that we were financially able to swing it as well.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a life-changing opportunity for her.
Mhm.
And what also is bringing me joy about this same thing is how excited my dad is for her to get this opportunity.
Ooh.
He's just talking about how brave she is. And he's like, gosh, when I went to college, that was all I could do to go 2 hours away and da-da-da. And
Yeah.
she's going to another country. And it's neat to see that generational
Yeah.
gap come together a little bit. I think there's so much value in cross-generational, not projects, but experiences and things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So it's neat to see. And I'm sure when we do go to Italy, that will be my joy. So
Yeah.
we'll just have that dangling out
Yes.
there. So yeah, very excited. And that's all I have to say about that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, if people want to see pictures from Italy when you go, where can they find you?
What an amazing segue. I am on Instagram at sustainable_Sue, and you can always come to my website, sustainablesue.com.
I'm sure you will have like the best blog posts about this. I can't wait for your essay.
We might need to do some sort of March Madness bracketology about the coffee that we
Oh my
encounter.
God, I would love that.
Yeah, and I also keep trying to push my family. Anna doesn't drink coffee, but I keep wanting to push this pool. Like, how many days will she be there before she starts to drink coffee? So if you want to, buy in a square.
Hell
I'll let you
yeah.
know.
Let me know what the buy-in is. I'm down for it.
Not that gambling is healthy, but there's a whole another
Low
program
stakes.
for that.
Yeah, yes, there is.
Yeah.
You can find us at Conscious Contact Podcast. That's on Instagram and on YouTube. So youtube.com/at Conscious Contact Podcast. We have an amazing book club that you can sign up for at consciouscontactpodcast.com. I cannot wait for that. And I am at Genay Peavey. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.